Yo, what up? For family, it's the kid. The one, the only BigBossFabo, man. Forward Fabian back again with a video for the channel. Actually doing a reaction to planet discoveries. We got Euphrates River has finally dried up and something terrifying is happening. This dropped a month ago on Planet Discoveries. So basically the rundown is imagine an ancient river that's been critical to the survival of civilizations for thousands of years suddenly drying up. With that being said, man, I've been doing a few reactions today to content similar to this. So like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell, follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Forward Fabian, road to 1 million subs. Peace, love, prosperity. Everybody's been rocking with the channel. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, subscribe, turn on notifications so you're notified every time I drop a video. Go to the playlist page to get familiar with all the different forms of content I drop. Check out everything I got going on in the description. Additionally, you can comment down below to recommend content, man. Peace, love. Let's get into this video.
Millions in Syria and Iraq are facing water shortages as the region's longest river, the Euphrates, dries up.
Euphrates River has finally dried up and something terrifying is happening. Imagine an ancient river that has been critical to the survival of civilizations for thousands of years suddenly drying up. Now, the unthinkable has happened, and now something horrible is unfolding. Join us as we explore the incredible events that are unfolding as a result of the Euphrates River finally drying up.
He said finally.
The odd and unexplained phenomena occurring in our world today and what they could mean for our future. The Bible talks about the Euphrates River a lot. In history, this long river has been very important. It also means something spiritual. In the Bible, the Euphrates River is a fascinating symbol, and it is also described in prophecies about how it will dry up. The Euphrates River is one of the biggest rivers in Western Asia. It starts in Turkey and runs through Syria and Iraq before emptying into the Persian Gulf. The length of the river is about 1,740 miles. It has been an important part of the past of the area for thousands of years, giving people water to drink and irrigating crops. It has also been a major trade and transportation route.
Facts.
The Euphrates River was a big reason why early nations like the Sumerians, Babylonians, and Assyrians grew and thrived. It has a lot of old towns like Ur, Babylon, and Nineveh that were once important places for civilization and culture.
Historic.
Its water was used to water crops, which made farming possible in a dry area. The river was also an important way for people to travel and sell goods like wood, precious metals, and fabrics. The Euphrates River is still an important source of water for millions of people in Syria, Iraq, and Turkey. It is used for farming, making hydroelectric power, and getting fresh water.
Real quick. So I guess, yeah, it's running right through here, as you can see, I believe. It's either this line or this line here.
It is used for farming, making hydroelectric power, and getting fresh water. But the river is facing problems right now, such as drought, the building of dams, and pollution, which make it less likely that it will continue to be an important resource for the area. The Euphrates River is often mentioned in the Bible as a physical landmark. It is also used as a metaphor for God's power over the natural world He has made. In the Bible, the Euphrates River has a lot of different meanings. It's a reminder that God is both loving and fair. In different places in the Bible, the Euphrates River is used to talk about both hope and disaster. It is often talked about in terms of the history and geography of the ancient societies it passed through, as well as in passages that predict what will happen in the future. In Genesis chapter 2, verse 14, the Euphrates is one of 4 rivers that run out of the Garden of Eden. This shows that Euphrates is a place where
Bro, I need to hone into my Bible a little bit more because, you know what I'm saying, this is kind of news to me. I guess the symbolism behind it, even, you know, it's news to me. I didn't know that it was one of the rivers, you know, flowing out of the Garden of Eden. Wow.
Where there's a lot of life and food. In Genesis chapter 15, verse 18, the Euphrates River is mentioned as one of the borders of the land God promises to Abraham. The Euphrates is also mentioned in Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 7, and Joshua chapter 1, verse 4, when talking about the land God promises to the Israelites. The Euphrates is a place of hope and promise in these texts. In Isaiah chapter 8, verses 6 through 8, the Euphrates River is used to show how God will punish sin. God speaks of allowing the Assyrian army to invade and overwhelm Judah like the mighty floodwaters of the Euphrates. Because this people has rejected the gently flowing waters of Shiloh and rejoices over Rezin and the son of Remaliah, therefore the Lord is about to bring against them the mighty floodwaters of the Euphrates, the king of Assyria with all his pomp. It will flow over all its banks and overflow all of its waterways. It will keep going until it reaches Judah, where it will swirl over it, go through it, and reach up to its neck. Its wings will spread out and cover all of your land, Emmanuel. In Jeremiah chapter 46, verse 10, the prophet Jeremiah says that Babylon will be taken over and the Euphrates River will dry up. But that day belongs to the Lord Almighty. It is a day of revenge, for revenge on his enemy.
He's just your local stockroom worker, right? Wrong. He's on his way to become...
So, like, there's a lot going on in terms of, I guess they're referring, the Bible for a lot of the references and kind of throughout history, or through biblical history, one must say. The symbolism behind the river, I guess, all the times it was referenced. Probably, if not, the most referenced body of water. Don't quote me on that, but that's what it's seeming to be. And, it's probably something that's not really realized for the avid Bible readers. Maybe some could name drop certain books or verses, text. But I guess just the remembrance of knowing that Euphrates pops up in all these different books. I just need to pick up my Bible more is what it sounds like.
For revenge on his enemies. The sword will eat until it is full and until its thirst for blood is quenched. For the sword will
take that back.
Lord Almighty. It is a day of revenge, for revenge on his enemies. The sword will eat until it is full and until its thirst for blood is quenched. For the Lord Almighty, will offer a sacrifice in the land of the north by the Euphrates River. This text shows that God is in charge of the land and river he made. In Jeremiah chapter 50, verses 38 and 39, the river Euphrates is said to dry up in the future because God will punish sin. In these lines, God says there will be a drought on her waters. They will become dry, for it is a land full of idols, and those gods will go crazy from fear. It will never be lived in again from one generation to the next. In Revelation chapter 16, verse 12, it says, "The sixth angel poured out his bowl on the great river Euphrates, and its water dried up to make way for the kings from the east." This makes it possible for evil kings to attack Israel. From what that text says, it seems like the Euphrates is a place of destruction and judgment at that time in history. The Euphrates River could dry up for the same reason that other rivers do, because people don't take care of the surroundings around the river. Bible scholars have come up with different spiritual meanings for Bible texts that talk about the Euphrates River drying up. Some people see it as a sign of the fall of the Babylonian Empire, which was a powerful force in the ancient world but lost its power in the end. Some people see it as a sign of the end of the world, which will happen when Jesus comes back to rule the world and separate the good people from the bad. In that view, the dry up of the Euphrates River could mean that the forces of darkness will be let loose on the world. It could mean that the Antichrist will get his soldiers together to attack Israel. In that case, the dry Euphrates riverbed could let the forces cross the river and attack Israel. We don't know when that will happen for sure, but thinking about how the Euphrates will dry up in the end times, whenever that happens, is a sobering warning that God is in charge of history. He'll punish.
And this is kind of alluding to the fact that, the Bible does depict or detail a lot of things that occur today or occurred throughout time. Like, let's keep it a bean. The same way people want to run to the Simpsons. Oh, the Simpsons predicted this happening. Didn't you know the Simpsons predicted this before it happened? Cool. A lot of things that people or we've seen throughout history were already pre-predicted or already pre-stated within the Bible. So, the list, you can Google that yourself. The list goes on. But with that being said, I just think, the occurrence would be forewarnings or foresigns alluding to the end of times. If you think the world is going to go on jolly forever, I think you kind of need a wake up call a little bit. I don't believe that the earth is going to be spinning and rotating on its axis for eternity. You know what I'm saying? So these are things that, spiritual folks tend to think about. worldly folks don't. You know what I mean?
Punish the world for its sin, but he also keep his people safe. Even when things are at their worst, we can trust in God. In the end, people have different ideas about what the Bible means when it says that the Euphrates will dry up. What is clear, though, is that the picture of a river drying up is a powerful metaphor for how people who turn away from God can feel spiritually dry. God is our living water, so having a bond with him can help us when we feel spiritually dry. God is called living water many times in the Bible. In John chapter 4, verse 14, Jesus says, "Anyone who drinks the water I give them will never feel thirsty again. The water I give them will become a spring that gives them life forever." And John
where there's a lot of symbolism and, like he mentioned, metaphors to where everything isn't as literal as it seems. And as we know, Jesus liked to talk in parables. So, you know, a lot of people was confused just by what he tried to state or some things he was referencing. But, you know, people who kept up, or people who understood. But a lot of people would criticize, obviously stated in the Bible, thinking that he was talking in rhymes and riddles, you know what I mean? Which essentially, I guess he kind of, a parable I wouldn't equate to that, but, you know, using a lot of picturesque, but then talking, I guess talking to an extent to where the mind had to do some thinking. You know, he wasn't just going to give it to you straight up. It was more so about, you know, like self-reflection at times, looking within oneself to understand the true meaning as it relates to you personally.
John chapter 7, verses 37 and 38, Jesus tells us, "Whoever is thirsty, let him come to me and drink. The Bible says that rivers of living water will come from the people who believe in me." Some of the Prophet Muhammad's sayings, known as hadiths in Islam, predict that the Euphrates would dry up, revealing unsuspected treasures that will lead to war and strife. The Euphrates River will soon disclose the mountain of gold wealth. Anyone present at the time should not take anything from it. In Quran chapter 18, verse 15, "The hour will not come until the river Euphrates dries up and shows the mountain of gold for which people will fight," said the Prophet Muhammad. "In the fighting, 99 out of 100 people will die, and each man will think, 'I might be the only one left alive.'" Sahih Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. The Euphrates shows the treasures it holds, said the Prophet Muhammad. Al-Mutaki al-Hindi, Al-Burhan Fi, Alamat al-Mahdi, Al-Akir al-Zamin. Sunan Abi Daud. The water in the Euphrates River is starting to go down. Hydroelectric projects in Turkey and Iran have started to choke off the rivers that have been the lungs of Mesopotamia for thousands of years. Because of seasonal droughts and bad management, the lives of the thousands of Iraqis who live along the banks of these ancient rivers are in danger of being turned upside down. The effects of climate change are felt very strongly in this area.
Perfect
Jobs
timing,
and
huh? Let me know y'all's thoughts on this in the comment section below. Be sure to like the video as well.
Area. Research shows that the amount of rain that falls in Iraq will go down by 15 to 20% this century. This will cause the amount of water in the Tigris and Euphrates River to go down by up to 73%.
That climatic change, man.
Because the
Global
water levels
warming.
are going down, salty waves from the Persian Gulf are making their way into river deltas. There, they are killing cattle and ruining fields of barley and wheat. The farmers are losing the things they need to live. They are either forced to give up their land, sell their sick cattle at a discount, and move to the city, or they can wait for the government to do something, which hasn't done much so far. As long as there are political fights in Baghdad, no one pays attention to the problems in the surrounding areas. The hadith may have been wrong about there being a mountain of riches buried under the Euphrates, but the fight it predicted is taking on a new meaning as drought floods the cities with refugees. Many people who move to cities choose to stay anonymous, which makes it hard to get correct data about migration. However, reports from the ground show that new social tensions are rising between people who live in cities and people who move there from the countryside.
Word.
Iraq is one of the places in the world where climate change is having the most effect.
I can only imagine. You know, country folk don't like city folk. City folk tend to not be able to relate to country folk. But country folk always, you know, they refer to the city folk as Yankees, whatever the words may. They always got slick terms. You know, you city boys can't handle it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's an interesting little fact, though. But, I mean, it's not surprising.
Drought has been very bad for months, especially in the south of the country. Since December, a lot of water has been taken out of Iraq's most important water store, the Mosul Reservoir, so that crops don't dry out. This led to the resurfacing of a Bronze Age city that had been underwater for decades without any archaeological research. It is in the Kurdistan region of Iraq in the town of Kemune. Due to this unexpected event, archaeologists had to work quickly to dig up and record at least parts of this big, important city before it was covered by water again. The Kurdish archaeologist Dr. Hassan Ahmed Qasim, chairman of the Kurdistan Archaeology Organization, and the German archaeologist Dr. Ivana Pulis, University of Freiburg, and Professor Dr. Peter Falsner, University of Tübingen, decided on their own to do rescue excavations at Kemune together. These happened in January and February 2022 with the help of the Directorate of Antiquities and Heritage in Duhok, which is in the Kurdistan region of Iraq. In just a few days, a team was put together to dig for survivors. The Fritz Thyssen Foundation and the University of Freiburg worked together quickly to get money for the project. The German Kurdish archaeology team was under a lot of time pressure because they didn't know when the water in the reservoir would rise again. In a short time, the experts were able to make a map of most of the city. A palace had already been found and recorded during a short campaign in 2018, but several other large buildings were also found. These included a huge fortress with a wall and towers, a huge storage building with many floors, and an industrial complex. The big urban area was built during the Empire of Mitanni, which ruled most of northern Mesopotamia and Syria from about 1550 BC to 1350 BC. Pugliese says the huge magazine building is especially important because it must have held a huge amount of goods that came from all over the region. Qasim comes to the conclusion that the results of the excavation show that the site was an important center in the Mitanni Empire. The study team was amazed by how well the walls were kept, even though they were made of sun-dried mud bricks and had been underwater for more than 40 years.
Dang.
Sometimes the walls...
Think about it, though, when it comes to, I guess, whether it's whole civilizations, certain objects that have just been caught, under sea level, below sea level due to, water levels rising, sinking, whatever it may be. A lot of undiscovered, I think, civilizations, items, whatever, valuables, whatever it may be, even leading to, one of the biggest so-called mysteries, Atlantis, civilization, a place that was above sea level to only, fall to the depths of the sea, so to speak. So, honestly, bruh, I wouldn't put it past anything. I think Atlantis is something that wouldn't surprise me if we found the existence of it.
Walls were several meters tall. This is because the city was destroyed by an earthquake around 1350 BC. During the earthquake, the upper parts of the walls fell down and buried the houses. The fact that over 100 cuneiform tablets were found in 5 ceramic jars is especially interesting. They were made during the Middle Assyrian era, not long after the city was destroyed by an earthquake. Some clay tablets, which may be letters, are still in their clay cases. Researchers are hoping that this find will tell them important things about the end of the Mitanni-era city and the start of Assyrian power in the area. Falsner says, "It's almost a miracle that cuneiform tablets made of unfired clay lasted so long underwater. To keep the rising water from doing more damage to the important site, the excavated buildings were fully covered with tight-fitting plastic sheets and filled with gravel as part of a large project to protect the area that was paid for by the Gerda Hinkle Foundation. This is meant to protect the unbaked clay walls and any other finds that might still be in the ruins when it floods." The next discovery is a 5,000-year-old fridge. Archaeologists have found the roots of our current way of life in a number of places, such as the Harappan, Mesopotamian, and Mohenjo-Daro societies. These findings show that our ancestors were a long way ahead of us and had advanced technologies we might not know about. Recently, archaeologists found the ruins of a tavern in southern Iraq that goes back almost 5,000 years. This was a very interesting find, and the findings should help us understand how people live in the world's biggest towns. A U.S.-Italian team recently made the find in the ancient ruins of Lagash, northeast of the modern city of Nasiriyah. Lagash is known as one of the earliest urban centers of the Sumerian civilization of ancient Iraq. Archaeologists are very interested in the town, which is now called Al-Hiba, because many important historical finds have been made there in the past. It is between the rivers Euphrates and Tigris, and it was found that the city was built on 4 islands and a marsh. During Sumerian civilization, the area was made up of separate cities, and each one of them was surrounded by walls and prayed to their god. After the digs, the researchers found an open courtyard that was used for eating, along with benches and oven, ancient food remains, and a 5,000-year-old moisture wick structure that could be compared to a modern-day fridge to keep the food cool. The team also found fish bones and bowls that were shaped like cones. Holly Pittman, who was in charge of the project, was quoted by AFP as saying, "So we have the refrigerator, hundreds of ready-to-serve dishes, benches where people would sit, and behind the refrigerator is an oven that would have been used to cook food." Holly said, "What we think this is a place is where people would come to eat that is not a home." The archaeologists found proof that people drank beer there. "We call it a tavern because beer was by far the most common drink in Sumer, even more than water," she said, adding that a beer recipe was found on a cuneiform tablet in one of the temples in the area. Archaeologists also found a recipe for an old beer at the site, according to sources. It has also been reported that excavations at the site resumed in 2019 as part of a joint project between the Penn Museum, the University of Cambridge, and Baghdad State Board of Antiquities and Heritage, where they have been using new techniques such as drone photography and genetic analysis to secure data and information. Researchers have learned more about the Sumerian civilization and how people lived during that time by using these modern methods. According to reports, early excavations in the area focused on religious architecture and learning about the elites. However, the most recent excavation focused on non-elite areas to learn more about how ancient towns were built. Archaeologists and people interested in history are very excited about this find. Food has been found in places like Mesopotamia, Sumer, and the Indus Valley. But
look at these type of structures, man.
Like Mesopotamia.
It's just without a doubt when you see things like this, man, their tech was just, whether they found remnants of the technology, bruh, it's just through the roof. Or these guys were just super smart, you know what I'm saying? I kind of mentioned this in the last video, even relating to like, lost civilizations, the architecture that they was putting up, the structures they was putting up, tying into like the pyramids, how were these people making these things, you know what I'm saying? Especially when the tech, the advancement, tools, things they were using were not pretty much up to par as we have today. So it's mind blowing, man. If you could just go back in time and then watch them construct one of these, masses, you'd probably be mind blown how they was going about doing it. But a lot of these things tend to be a mystery.
The pyramids, Sumer, and the Indus Valley, but this is the first time that a building that looks like a fridge has been found. It shows not only how skilled the people of that time were, but also why they put something that would spoil, like fish, in a cool box. And this is the first time in history that something so exciting has been found. When we think of water in a spiritual way, like the mighty Euphrates River, we can be amazed by the beauty of God's work as our flowing water. And when we think about rivers drying up, like the Euphrates, it tells us that we need to stay close to God's living water to keep us from becoming spiritually dry. Christians feel a spiritual connection to the Euphrates River because the Bible talks about it in both historical and prophetic ways. It is a sign of both good and bad change, and it shows how powerful God is over the natural world He made. The Euphrates can also make us think about the struggle between good and evil, as well as the difference between spiritual dryness and the spiritual pleasure that God gives us through Jesus. Jesus is the one who can truly quench our spiritual thirst.
Facts.
And that brings us to the end of today's video. Thank you for watching.
So when the Euphrates River dries up, y'all, don't say the Bible didn't tell y'all so. You know what I mean? So essentially, that was Euphrates River has finally dried up and something terrifying has happened, y'all. Let me know y'all's thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter, @Fabian. That was Planet Discoveries. I enjoyed this video. Very informative. Very informative. So let me know y'all's thoughts on this one in the comment section below, man. Check out everything I got going on in the description. Subscribe to the channel, man. Much love to everybody. Catch you guys in the next video, though. We out.